Our next item is a review of the schematic design for the living building of the Center for Environmental Studies and Sustainability. And of course, at our next meeting, we'll be seeking your approval of that design. And so Susan Moore is going to kick off that presentation. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Chair Atkins, Vice Chair Shea, school board members, and Superintendent Cashwell. Today, we are very, very excited to bring forward for your approval our schematic design for the living building at Wilton, which is one of our projects on the 2022 bond referendum. Presenting with me today will be Laura Gwynn. She is a managing director for Perkins & Will, our design firm, and a vital part of our design team on this project. So on the screen, you'll see an actual site. That will be where the building will go at Wilton Farm. And the living building will serve students enrolled, again, in the Environmental Studies and Sustainability Center, as well as all levels of HCPS students in various capacities, and our Henrico community. This new educational facility will be a leading example of sustainability and regenerative design, and it will focus on experiential learning to prepare students for possible future careers in the environmental sciences. This will be the first living building challenge certified public K-12 facility in the world. Yes, I did say the world. And the only the second living building of any kind in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Laura will briefly review the Living Building Challenge in the next slide. The facility will demonstrate daily HCPS's commitment to sustainability and innovation, both in building and education, as well as to the Henrico community who supported this project as part of the 22 bond referendum. I'll now turn over the presentation to Laura so she can walk us through the schematic design.
Thank you, Susan. And good afternoon to members of the board, as well as Dr. Cashwell. Great to see you again. It is a pleasure to be here today to provide you updates on the design of this Living Building Challenge at the Wilton Farm. I'd like to start by explaining why this is called a living building. The Living Building Challenge is maintained and administered by the International Living Future Institute, called ILFI for short. Their mission is to drive market transformation towards a socially just, a culturally rich, and ecologically restorative future. The LBC Challenge includes 7 categories, or known as petals. You'll see them featured on the screen. The project team must achieve 20 performance imperatives across these 7 petals in order to achieve a full certification. This is a more robust program than most high-performance building certifications in the industry. And in fact, there are only 30 fully certified buildings in the world, as Susan mentioned, and that this HCPS will have the first public K-12 living building in the world. The design of the living building is focused on maximizing the building's ability to serve as a teaching tool itself. Both the landscape and the building include features intentionally designed to spark curiosity and serve as a living laboratory. For example, the building will generate all of its energy that it needs from on-site solar panels, and the students will learn how energy is used in the building. The project models responsible use of the land, the water, and energy and materials to the highest levels possible. And again, for an example, the water used inside this building will be used for drinking and cooking and restrooms. It will all come from rainwater that is harvested, captured, and purified on site. The students will learn firsthand about the hydrological cycle and how to protect our water quality. The construction will generate virtually no waste that will be sent to a landfill, and the building materials will include a significant number of materials that are being reused, many from some local projects, including materials that we have already salvaged from other buildings within the district, And for example, we intend to use some older gym floors for new wood paneling on the interior and also as a flooring material in this new school. So these strategies and others really help the building to earn this certification in the Living Building Challenge, which will also ensure that Henrico County Public Schools is a national leader in the environmental education. The project will be located on a portion of the land formerly known as the Wilton Farm. Many of you are probably familiar with this area. It's a parcel of forested and agricultural land near the Osborne Turnpike and the James River. The county purchased about 1,200 acres on this property, and it includes a historically significant resources. Careful consideration has been and will occur at every step of the design process to preserve and honor the rich history throughout this site. The yellow highlighted area by the boundary is approximately 62 acres, and that is the site that HCPS will be utilizing for our project. The white location symbol shows the selected area for the new building, and it's on a gently sloping field near Whale Lake. The location is ideal as it is far enough away from the 895 overpass so that vehicular noise is not audible in the building, nor will it be visible. Utilizing the clearing, this open field, means that no trees will need to be removed to build this new building. And the proximity to the lake allows for this curriculum connection to include learning modules on the wetlands, on water quality, native flora and fauna, amongst other topics. On this slide, it zooms in on the building site, and this shows the major focus for the major landscape features that will be evolved on this project. At the top left corner is a proposed orchard. Over here. Mm-hmm. And it's shown in a circular Fibonacci sequence. We'll go over to the low one on the left. Mm-hmm. And this is envisioned as an opportunity for students to begin to leave their mark and make their mark on the school and the land here. For example, each graduating class may be invited to plant a tree, a row of trees, to commemorate the time that they spent at this site learning, so that the mini forest continues to grow slowly over time and students can see this evolution on campus, offering an opportunity to watch this tree's life cycle over time. The site features various educational stations, which will cover various aspects of the natural world. In addition, a small-scale wind turbine is featured at the center of the spiral to showcase and teach about another form of renewable energy. And the rendering also shows a proposed landscaping, which includes planting of new trees that will begin to fill in even the existing forest, and it's done through a process that we call rewilding. Amongst the new trees, the driveway accesses and terminates in a new drop-off area for the buses and vehicles with a circular turnabout. The students can then walk on a new trail through a newly planted forest of trees up to the building, which is seen from above, the building itself, as seen from above, is shaped to resemble a bird's wings. This aerial view of the site shows the building's relationship with the newly proposed drop-off area, the landscaping, the forest, and you can see the glimpses of Whale Lake. It also shows the new student forest more clearly. As a visitor walks around the corner to approach the building, they get their first view of the proposed building through a green roof. The plantings on this green roof are native to the area and make it look or appear as though the building is growing out of the ground, even though in reality, the roof line is too high for anyone to be able to access. The floor plans are color-coded to illustrate various uses for this proposed building. This is the upper level or main level of the facility, and it shows the administrative wing on the right, separated from the classroom wing by the main entry and lobby. The main entry is the only building entry, which allows the vestibule to serve as an effective security checkpoint. Once you've been granted access inside the lobby, you have access to the administrative area, the restroom bank, and the receptionist desk, and as well as the classroom wing, and off the back, a beautiful view of the outdoor expansive deck that overlooks the forest and views to Whale Lake. The classroom wing is designed so that each classroom is accessed directly from the commons area, which benefits from full-height windows to allow visual access to the forest. This brings in abundant natural light, which will penetrate deep into the space. The operable windows into each classroom will allow for direct access to some landscape planters featured on Plan North, which are playing an integral role in the project's approach to managing stormwater. By naturally filtering the rainwater, it's another opportunity for the students to engage for soil and water testing, and just a great learning experience overall. Both the classroom and the admin wings feature a screened-in porch enclosure at each end, which will extend the usable space during those milder weather times in the school year. The circular rainwater cistern featured in the upper right is shown at the edge of the admin wing, and the rainwater is collected off of the solar paneled roof above and stored for use inside the building. We'll switch now to the lower level, which is essentially a daylighted basement. It features covered outdoor classroom areas, which is an additional space that allows for outdoor instruction. This outdoor classroom has direct access to the trails leading down to the lake and is directly connected to the outdoor gear and canoe storage room for ease of access. This lower level is envisioned as kind of the messy level where wet boots or field equipment, canoes, and other teaching materials can both be stored, accessed, and cleaned. This level also includes the mechanical room, which is designed with tall floor-to-ceiling windows, which allow the students to look in and see the instrumentation that supports the building's energy systems. The compost room houses equipment to support and support the proposed composting toilets, which means that this facility uses very little water, and it in fact produces soil rather than sewage. The landscape design includes a small stream to flow underneath the building to allow for another direct connection with nature during the school day. Shady forested planting areas underneath the building mean that students can learn about ecosystems all around them. This stunning elevation is the main facade of the building that will look out over the forest and towards Whale Lake. It promises to be a beautiful and dramatic view of the building. The right side of the building in this view shows the glass enclosed administrative wing and classroom wing on the left that are covered by outdoor deck areas and access from the lobby. The left side shows that large common space out facing this area with the classrooms behind it. In the foreground, you'll notice the landscaping is shown as natural. It's a habitat that will allow insects, birds, mammals to thrive and be part of this experience every day. The large expanse of windows, while articulated with sun shading devices similar or used to minimize the heat gain during the summer and warmer months, will allow for free solar heating in the winter. The light blue enclosure on the lower level is a restroom space. You can see that down there if you want to point that out, Susan. And this is to allow for use during outdoor activities so that students who are learning outside don't have to go upstairs in order to use the facilities, and will be a great convenience feature. This rendering shows the building nestled again in the landscape and the proposed green roof as an extension of that ground plane. This view of the building is seen from a current proposed pollinator garden. And down in the lower level, again, showing use of some proposed salvage wood materials on the ceiling and the glass enclosed water treatment room. This outdoor classroom environment down here is also shown. I'll turn it back over to you now, Susan.
Thank you very much, Laura. As you can see, Perkins & Will has got an incredible start on our living building design, and we are very, very excited about this opportunity to build a fully sustainable building and pursue the Living Building Challenge. Our goal is to have the design completed at the end of this school year, with construction starting immediately after that. Construction of a living building requires additional time as the systems are more specialized and have to be carefully selected, and our materials have to be carefully selected. But the finished product is going to be a striking, environmentally sustainable addition to our Henrico community. As a reminder, the project delivery is utilizing the construction manager at risk method, which allows us to bring our selected contractor onto our team and let them be part of the design process, which will assist with determining our construction methods and our materials and determining that they will remain within our construction budget. The Living Building Challenge will require a one-year post-occupancy monitoring period before the building can be fully certified as meeting the requirements of the challenge. But I do want to make it clear, HCPS will occupy and utilize that building for that entire year of monitoring. Just as a reminder, we just want to let you know that this was a part of our 2022 bond referendum. We had about $3 million in general capital and $13.3 million as bond funding with a $16.3 million total budget for the project. As you can see, our goal is design completion in June of 2025, with construction completion being about a year later. One thing I do want to point out is with the construction manager at risk method, we may have the opportunity to release some portions of the construction early, so the construction could be phased. So we're looking right now at a mid-year opening in December of 26 with our one-year occupancy, post-occupancy for the challenge certification, and then hoping to achieve our full certification in December of 2027. So with that, we leave you with one more wonderful view of that lakefront facade, and we're happy to take any questions you have.
I'm quite speechless. So I'm going to take some time with this, and I will take the liberty of going first. So I'll ask my colleagues for grace as I digest what you have shared and do my best to articulate all these scrambled thoughts that I have in this moment. One of the things that stuck out the most was just the thoughtfulness of the building to stay true to its environment. It's very easy to go for something very shiny, something very new. It's difficult to be thoughtful enough to be honest and to be truthful into what this environment is. It is forest. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very appreciative. And so Ms. Moore and Ms. Gwen, I thank you so much for the presentation. I thank all the teams for all of the work. And now as my thoughts are really coming into focus, I do have questions. So colleagues, thank you for your grace in coming and sharing. What is the occupancy or projected occupancy for the building?
We'll be looking at about 100 students. So with the 4 classrooms, we can have 100 students in those classrooms, and we would be able to have some occupancy in the commons area. So the final occupancy will be determined a little further into the design completion.
But we're looking right now that's a fairly large building, so we're looking at about 100 students. Hearing you right? Correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
So the idea would be that our students at Varina High School who are in the environmental and sustainability program could be holding class there on a regular basis. And then students who may be coming from various elementary schools to do a canoeing field trip or be in the pollinator garden would exist at the same time in and out of those outdoor spaces. Right. So for the classroom space, the fixed classroom space and building, but given the expansive grounds and the outdoor space connected to the underneath, you could expect to see many more there at the same time.
Great. That's kind of what I was thinking. So thank you for answering the question on classroom space. And Dr. Cashwell, the much larger audience and participants of the building. The other question is around parking. I didn't see, or perhaps I did not understand, what does parking look like around the building itself?
Well, it's not a conventional parking lot like you might see in many of your schools today. It is designed intentionally to be very thoughtfully integrated into the landscape. If you'll notice, to the left here, you see 2 yellow school buses over here at this drop-off. And right in between these trees, around that roundabout, is essentially parking spaces that are designed to go off of that, angled parking spaces right off the drop-off. So parking is right there, as well as some additional parking spaces along the main drive in. You'll see carving out of some of those right here for additional overflow if there was a community event or other things of that nature. There'll be additional capacity there. If somebody needed to drop off a larger material load and deal with loading or an accessibility oriented drop off that needed to be made, there is a convenience lane to be able to drop off very close to that front door of the building. But we will not encourage necessarily everybody to go in front of the school, and keep the experience of vehicles separate as much as possible from the learning environment and the students.
That's so good to hear, because I'm thinking about traffic. And I wanted a better understanding of the road itself, getting in, coming out, and where the parking would be. And you mentioned wind turbine. Could you share with me a little bit more about what type of wind turbine you're looking at?
Yeah, this is a smaller scale wind turbine. It will look perhaps a bit more sculptural than one of the kind of pinwheel or end of an airplane looking ones. So this will be a little bit more sculptural in nature. It's designed right around that Fibonacci sequence. It will probably appear a bit more sculptural. This is probably something about 20 to 30 feet high in nature, more almost like a flagpole of sorts.
I think if you think of the wind turbine that's on top of Maggie Walker, thank you. It would be probably something very similar to that, as far as the shape goes.
And then regarding, there's bodies of water that surround. Will there be pathways to those bodies of water from the living building?
Yes, the specific routes for all those have not been designated just yet. The main one that we have proposed a pathway for that gets all the way down towards Whale Lake is an extension of the building, and then one accessible pathway that loops all the way through the forest, kind of follows the shoreline and comes out at basically a lake station or a kind of dock at the end of the pathway. There are some other wetland areas on the site that we believe will have some opportunities to get closer to the water, but those are all being still designed at this point in time.
Thank you again, and now I'll turn the floor over to my colleagues for their comments and questions as well, and I will start to my left with Mr. Irving.
So thank you for this presentation. This is obviously amazing. I wish that I could live here. This is just a testament, I think, to the commitment of HCPS to wanting to truly express our commitment to sustainability. I think the building is just, it is a beacon of what public spaces and what public buildings not only could be, but should be. And I think it should be beautiful because it's shared by all of us. And I think that's just part of what it is. The net positive water, net energy positive, that's just fantastic. I think the Fibonacci sequence, which is often found in nature, is a very clever touch that was added in, so I appreciate that. I don't have too many questions, just because I think that this mostly speaks for itself, and it is awe-inspiring, and I'm incredibly proud to be a part of this, and I'm glad to see that it's even opening quicker than I would have expected, given something of this quality. So, thank you for the presentation, and thank you for, showing us what this will be like, and I'm excited to get into it eventually. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Irving. Mr. Young?
Yeah, once again, thank you for the presentation. I'm by no means an environmental expert, but I know a good thing when I see it. And this is a really, really good thing that we're doing here. I heard lake access, wind turbines, solar panels, no waste generated, the use of recycled materials to create the building, and protecting our environment has become increasingly important to our daily lives. So I'm definitely cannot wait to get into this building. If you take a second, can you explain the roof to me? I see that we have solar panels, but also there's some sort of plants or something involved in it?
It's called a green roof.
Yeah, green. How does that work?
So green roofs actually have been around quite some time. It's a little bit of an upside down roof system. If you don't mind, I will take this one. My
Susan.
background is roofing, so. And I will tell you, you don't get to design green roofs all that often, so I'm really excited about that. But you put the membrane on the bottom, close to the roof deck, and then all of that growing medium goes on top of the roof. So there's a couple of different ways it can be done. It can be a tray system where you literally put trays of growing medium across the whole roof, or it can actually be the medium is laid on the membrane and actually grows on top of the membrane in the process. So it helps reduce heat island effect because it keeps your roof cooler. You don't have the higher temperatures on the roof surface like you do with a conventional membrane roofing system. It's a wonderful thing. It can be absolutely beautiful. And the way our designers have laid this building out, it will be very visible, so the kids will get to see this roof. Don't want to take a lot of kids on a roof, just for all of the various reasons, but we do want them to see it and experience it and understand the roof can be that fifth facade.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And one last thing, I love when HCPS leads the way on anything. So this is incredible, and thank you for your time and the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Mrs. Shea.
Mr. Young, so well said on so many things. Way to go. I love it. Ms. Gwen, you make this sound like an ecological Disney World. I mean, the way you just describe it all, it just sounds, I'm not an outdoorsy kind of gal, but this sounds, as Mr. Young says, I know something good when I hear it. So thank you for sharing your passion with us and the vision for the space. I know this is a significant investment for us, so I just want to touch on a couple things. Ms. Moore, you shared with using a different strategy with our construction vineyards, an at-risk, to make sure that they are part of helping source materials for a lot of reasons, but also to remain in budget. Can you just hum a bar again about that to help me understand what that looks like? Because as we have skyrocketing school construction costs, that's definitely top of mind with all of our construction projects coming down.
Understood. The construction manager at risk is a delivery method that the school board approved last year, along with design build. So we have our traditional format, which is design, bid, build. And the reason why we chose the construction manager at risk method on this job is it gave us, one, the opportunity to go ahead and start working with our designer and get the project started. And then it allows us to bring our contractor in under a separate contract, but as part of the team. So they are actively involved in resourcing materials, working with companies to find the various materials we can as well as can't use in the project. And they are there to help guide us if we get a little too skippy on what we're putting out there. They can say, no, hold up, that's not going to fit within the budget. But here's something that we could do that may fit in the budget. So it's just a different delivery method, but it allows us to include the contractor as part of the design process. It's structured differently without getting too deep in the weeds. It's structured a bit differently so you don't have change orders in a CM at risk project unless you change the scope of the project. So it's just, again, another procurement method and delivery method for the construction process. But with a highly specialized building such as this, it is really the way to go in order to ensure success in the final product. Would you add anything, Laura?
No, I don't think I'd add anything to that. That was a good summary.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this different mode of procurement and delivery unfolds. I'm tentatively excited about it. It seems at first blush to help hold kind of all of our feet to the fire in terms of staying in the budget and both getting the dream to happen, but making it happen in a feasible way that keeps us good stewards of not only our ecological resources, but also as accounting our fiscal resources. And so finding that balance there. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing how this new method works with this building and how it may be able to be applied to other projects in the future. And then, as we're talking about the investment and the benefit for our students, Dr. Cashwell, it really helps me when you explain that possible use for seeing that perhaps the environmental students would be there on a regular basis and then adding in field trips. So do we foresee, once the building is fully completed and up and running, do we foresee it likely being occupied on a daily basis, at least during the school day?
Absolutely, and likely after hours for the community. I mean, this is a building that has teaching and learning purposes during a school day and after, as I said, into the community. So you can expect to see it occupied frequently. And I know that we'll in the future share a report from our instructional team on all the exciting programmatic connections here. So parallel to the design of the building are folks in teaching and learning and our experts in science and history and working alongside this project to think of all of the potential teaching and learning opportunities, both with the building itself, the space, and so on. So certainly the first most natural connection is for our high school students at Varina, for this to be their school, their place to be and learn and explore and put their program into action outdoors. But I would suspect that, whether it's teacher professional learning on site or student field trips at all grade levels and ages, that it will be a bustling, active place.
Awesome. Well, I'm very excited. And I know, Henrico, not only the school side, but also our government side really specializes in, or I should say really thrives in our community partnerships too. And I see a lot of opportunities for community partnerships with things like the pollinator garden and all of these spaces that we have such great community partners in, and how they can come alongside us to enhance the learning opportunities for our students and our community. So thank you so much.
Mrs. Kinsella?
Yes, what an exciting presentation. Still processing so much of it and processing what my colleagues have said. And really, Mrs. Shea and I always highlight budget things. So I love hearing things like no waste building project and repurposing. So thank you for that. But it's just fascinating. And not having been out to the property, right? So one way in, one way out. Mm-hmm. That's what we're doing, and we feel comfortable with that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. I mean, I know we want to leave the land as we found it as much as we can, mm-hmm. but I just hear one way in, one way out, and thought I'd ask. So thank you for that. And then as to restrooms, like we have enough restrooms in the design for the different age groups that will be using the property. Not familiar really with the type of restrooms that are planned for this facility.
Sure. So the number of restrooms is required by code.
Okay.
So code immediately determines, based on occupancy, how many restrooms we have to have. And of course, our ADA accessible toilet stalls would have a taller ADA accessible toilet. Okay. In the other toilet stalls, we could do a shorter, a shorter toilet that you would see in a home, a 15-inch toilet.
Okay.
So that we would anticipate would be appropriate for all age levels that would be utilizing the building.
That's what I'm getting at, is the field trip. I think you said on the lower level, underneath outside, they would have access to bathrooms. Yeah. So I'm wondering, given the age range this facility will serve, not just our high school students, right? Mm-hmm. In the program. Okay, thank you for that. And then, again, just hearing all this for the first time, I just have to ask, so each of the individual components, right, have been proven elsewhere, though this is going to be the first public K-12 in the world like this. All these individual features have been test-driven other places, right? So that when we put them all together, because I'm just kind of thinking, is there a backup plan? For example, like along the way if X isn't working the way we thought it would. I mean, I'm certain the roof will work the way we think it's going to work, right? But is that considered, again, because I'm not a design, in design or in construction and maintenance?
So absolutely, I think all of the systems we're looking at have been looked at and road tested in other, the composting toilets we've actually been to some of the living buildings that have composting toilets in them. There's also foaming toilets. I can tell you when we did visit the Condita building in Georgia, as well as the Brock Center in Virginia Beach, we talked to the maintenance folks.
Okay.
I love talking to the designers. I love talking to the heads of the building, but ultimately for facilities, we want to talk to the maintenance folks, and we want to get
Absolutely.
the real deal on what they think about the systems. Radiant flooring, I believe we're considering radiant flooring. Radiant flooring has been around for quite some time. So I can't think of any. The cisterns, that's an active practice. And there are numerous other buildings in the country and in the world that have individual pedal certifications. They just don't, there's only 30 that have all 7 pedal certifications. So there's a number of these sustainable systems that are there and have been being utilized. Because I will tell you, facilities, we like to work with systems that we feel very confident are going to be successful in the long run.
Right. Well, as a board member, I like investing in facilities that I think, are going to be around for the long run and be successful. So thank you so much for all that. And I just wanted to hear some of the vetting that you've been through, because when you put all of this together, 7 pedals you said hadn't been done, right?
Not for public schools.
For public schools. And so we're just going to lead the way. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mrs. Kinsella. Mr. Irving, you wanted to reroute? The floor is yours.
Yes. So when Mr. Young asked about the roof, that got me thinking. So these essentially a living roof. Does that help? And you said that it reduces building temperatures. Would that help reduce taxation on HVAC units within the building themselves?
It would actually.
Yes, it does help to reduce that by lowering the temperature a bit. It lowers the demand that you'd have to be able to provide air.
Okay. And is it possible to install solar panels on top of this type of roof, not just to the side, but on the medium itself?
So frequently, if you want the green things to stay green and grow, you wouldn't cover them up with another solar panel. So we've separated that out between each of the sides of the roof. The admin wing is the one that has the solar panels above it, and that helps to be a consistent membrane, essentially, to be able to drain the water towards the cistern. So those solar panels and the amount of energy demand that we have understood from all the uses that Dr. Caswell has presented, as well as just the day-to-day occupancy, we've taken a look at the energy model. And this array of solar panels, as we call them, is sufficient enough to provide even more, just even more energy than the building actually is projected to use. Perfect. So you can think about it as kind of a no power bills a school.
Yeah. And then the last one was there any consideration given to geothermal heating, just in staying in the renewable vein and kind of removing the certain HVAC
Yes,
system?
Geothermal is still being studied as one of our approaches to the systems, and that's still in design right now.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Irving. And then just in closing, for a project like this, I happen to love the outdoors, and I happen to like to sleep outdoors. And so I think that the more exposure we give to the world about what Henrico County Public Schools can do in being innovative, and certainly a project like this requires that we remain at attention and not be at ease. So it will be uncomfortable. But that does not mean that we will not receive the reward, which is the opportunity. And I firmly believe that it could be one of our HCPS students that saved this world because they've come through this project and had this opportunity. And I'm so grateful. And there are thousands that will be grateful for the work that you, your team, and Henrico County Public Schools remain invested in, and that's innovation. So thank you so much.
Thank you
You're
all.
very welcome. Thank you.